will have to do with it. Yes, I wanted to watch this Jubilee video. Is Gen Z misinformed? Conservative teens versus liberals versus moderates. I mean, this is just gonna be fun to watch because it's so easy to dunk on both conservative and moderates. It's uh, teens. If you're not leftist, if you're not a leftist as a teenager, then you're doing something wrong. You're just advocating against yourself. If you're conservative, you're okay. Let's just watch it and save the comments for later.
Hey, good humans, welcome to Middle Ground. Keep an eye out for an interactive prompt in the middle of this episode, and thank you for watching.
Misinformed about what? Just misinformed generally is a very broad term.
I do feel our generation is heavily misinformed sometimes because of social media. A lot of the times they just see movements as sort of a trend without looking into them, and I feel that that happens so much, they'll just go with it, and I feel like a lot of the times it makes it very...
Oh shit, they actually almost all of them agree. So I guess I agree as well. Social media is not the best way to get information and news.
kind of just be tailed by the government, and I feel that we need to do a lot better job at looking into things and really reading into things and starting to take facts over feelings.
Yeah, because it's
Okay, this is gonna be a hard watch. Okay.
sometimes easier to just look at something and accept it as truth than to go and do your research and find counterclaims or something that aligns with that. Because if you're just sitting there like scrolling through TikTok and somebody says that this is happening, I mean, like, who's gonna? It's not really.
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, just don't get your news from TikTok is my suggestion. Maybe just read the news. But that could be me.
I strongly agree with both of you guys. I think the reason why I was
I already don't like this guy.
over is even though I agree that our generation is misinformed, that doesn't mean that older generations aren't also misinformed, especially in the form of for like Gen X and the baby boomers or whatever. Cable news in particular, you have millions of Americans now.
Oh yeah, of course, this is about America, which I forgot, but yeah. This is about America, which plays a significant factor in the discussion, probably.
Tuning in every night to see Tucker Carlson spread misinformation. I don't want to.
I mean, Tucker Carlson shouldn't be considered as a news source. He's just a YouTuber on cable television.
Pick on him in particular, but he's an example. Social media is just another example of what's been going on for generations and generations of people just, with all due respect, being too lazy to do their own research and just believing what other people tell them.
This is such a stupid take because the whole point of social media is that you get to see your own algorithm and that you stay down your own interest and your own like tunnel vision of the internet by all these algorithms on TikTok and YouTube, and you only get to see the select few of creators that you already agree with. So that's why misinformation spreads like wildfire on social media, and it's just stupid to say that older generations didn't do their own research. Back in the day, people just read the news and it was just objective, and now people try to spin news into political agitprop, which is why people are being misinformed, because people are deliberately misinforming people on social media.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you guys, but I also wanted to add that as a generation, we don't have good examples of politicians and how they disagree and agree anymore. When my parents...
Wait, just real quickly for me, I'm not really into... I don't really know what what are liberals? Let me just... What is liberalism? wait, this is Dutch, of course, because I am Dutch. This is the English Wikipedia page. Liberalism is a political and moral philosophy based on the right of the individual liberty, consent of the governed, political equality, and equality before the law. So is it left-leaning? Because got the I got the idea from this video already that liberalism is more moderate than left-wing. But I think they just, for this video, they mean left-wing, right? I think. Let's just assume they mean left-wing. So conservative is of course heavily right-wing, right-leaning. Liberals, left-leaning, and moderates are just idiots.
Were younger, they used to watch the politicians in the Senate and the House have like great lively debates and come to a conclusion in the end, and you would see how they were speaking and how they bounced off each other's opinions. And now that we don't have that example anymore, we're forced to get our information from social media, and a lot of the news channels these days are heavily biased. And because of that, I feel like as a generation...
That's because news is now privatized these days. Back in the day it was just mostly by the government. News was given by the government, so of course still a little bit of bias, but it nationalized. So it's still a little bit biased towards your country, but like overall it's pretty objective. And nowadays it's privatized, so it's really easy for people to influence the news.
We're heavily misinformed. My dad and I spoke to each other a lot about politics, and since I was a liberal at that time and he was a conservative, we would have a lot of debates. I would find myself growing and becoming more moderate.
I mean, becoming more moderate is really just saying I don't have morals anymore and I don't agree with anything. There's no... If you are moderate, you say left-leaning has good qualities and right-leaning has good qualities, which they don't mix. I really don't understand why people call themselves moderates.
Because the things he said and the things I listened to and the things I researched because of...
So she's just saying she disagrees with her old self, and that's why people always say moderates are just right-leaning, because most moderates were once left-wing, and then they get not indoctrinated, but they start to agree with more right-wing ideas, but they still kind of feel like the equality and the socialist the social aspects of left wing politics, but they agree more and more with things on the right. So that's why people say moderates are basically just right-wingers because they don't agree with left-wing ideology.
Points that he made to me, I would find myself transitioning into more of a moderate.
Like, what do you believe in as a moderate from like the left wing? Because if you believe in equality, you can't mix that with right wing ideology. You can't say I believe that everyone should be equal and then saying but I agree with capitalism. You can't do that. Oh, that's a Dutch ad, which is unfortunate because I still don't have an ad blocker, so I'll quickly skip these ads. Okay, yep, we're back. Yes.
I disagree because in 2022, truth is becoming less and less objective and more subjective. And there will always be objective truth, but humanity will stray further and further from that, especially when a lie can be attached to an emotion, you see.
Okay, I agree with this guy on this point, but I can already see that he had like the conservative subtitle under his name, so he was probably gonna take this the other way and say that we are misinformed because we believe that queer people exist, and he's gonna get crazy. I
We
can
are
already
thinking
tell.
less and less critically and more emotionally as a whole. And so
Yep, he hit the mark already.
you see something like, for instance, George Floyd, May of 2020. That just strikes your heart. First thing you want to do, go to Instagram and post a black square. Now, what
That's not the first thing I want to do when I heard about the George Floyd murder, but I guess I'm different than these people.
is that doing? I don't quite know. But what it made you feel was like you did something to help.
Holy shit. What was... She changed emotions
That
so
just strikes
quickly.
your heart. First
See
thing you wanna
this.
do, go to Instagram and post a black square. Now, what is that doing? I don't
Ha
quite
ha
know.
ha ha
But
ha.
what it made you feel was like you did something to help that poor fellow who got a terrible thing that happened to him.
When I was hearing this question, I was thinking, like, is the majority of, like, my generation, aka the people I know, misinformed? And I would definitely say yeah. I feel like the lack of information is, like,
He's gonna spew so much right-wing rhetoric. I can tell by his face.
almost as bad as, like, receiving,
He has so much hate towards these people.
the wrong information.
I want to touch up on something you said. I think it is true that social media did change the way we receive
I feel
Yep.
like the lack
Oh, yep, he is conservative. Yep, I guessed correctly.
whether that is misinformation or the truth. But that doesn't make us misinformed because of that. Obviously, like, yes, you have social media, it's so much easier to get information, but I don't think because we have social media that automatically makes you misinformed.
Yes, it does, because social media is driven by algorithm and not by objectiveness. It's inherently subjective, social media. That's the point. That's why people engage with it. Yeah, okay, so they are depicting left-wing people as liberals here. Which I guess it's... liberal is just like the social category of the left-leaning ideology, and socialism is like the economic um, category of the left-wing ideology, and then you have like conservative as the social right-wing ideology, and capitalism as the right-wing economic category. So I see what they mean now. For me, they absolutely did not, because both of my parents are very much not socially conservative, but definitely economically conservative. I don't agree with my parents on most stuff, so for me this is a disagree. I think I'm just gonna be involved with all these statements to just give you a view of my ideology. I'm actually also a teen, by the way. I'm 18 years old.
Grew up in a conservative Christian household in Iowa, so I'm very, very well around conservative politics all the time, and my parents have absolutely influenced like not only my morals but my political beliefs through that manner. And I think a lot of those teachings actually led me to being more progressive and more liberal over time, rather than actually being conservative.
Yeah, for me it's kind of similar. My dad is Christian, but in Vietnam they have this thing where actually like they practice both Buddhism and Christianity. From both religions, both Buddhism and Christianity, it's always taught about like we as a community need to take care of each other, we need to respect each other, and we need to create like the best society we can. My parents not like directly telling me like, oh, you should believe this or you should believe that, but just the way that they have taught morals to me and also their own personal experiences have influenced my own beliefs.
In Buddhism,
I mean, I don't know about most other cultures, but I feel like morals are not really something you actively teach your children. It's just something that happens throughout life, something you have to experience for yourself, I think. I think it doesn't really make sense to say to your kids, like, you should have morals like these, because then eventually they're going to disagree with them because you're the parent.
it's basically what can you do that is the best for others. Of course, not everyone agrees with my beliefs, But regardless of that, I still want them to have happiness in life.
I'd say my
If that is not the driving factor behind your morals, if it's not making sure other people are happy and other people enjoy life, then your morals are just wrong, I guess. If your morals are inherently selfish, then I guess that says a lot about a person.
parents gave me probably one of the most interesting childhoods out there. I was observant, so I watched my community. And when I saw how things had progressed in my community and then sort of just stopped, especially during the housing recession and crash in 2007 and 8, I had a deep question as to why aren't things getting better. They didn't teach me anything. They let me.
The answer to that question is capitalism. Why didn't things get better after the 2008 market crash? Your answer is capitalism and right-wing ideology.
Learn my own way, because if they had taught me something, I wouldn't have had the thirst to know more. I stepped forward because I believe without them.
Notice how all of the conservatives here are just debate perverts, and all the liberals are people who actually care about their morals. It's just something I noticed, something interesting.
I could have had some other sort of beliefs, but I felt that what they taught me pushed me down my path.
So I became a conservative in 2018, and I became that based off my research. I was actually
You don't just become a conservative. That's something that's just inherently you. You can't just switch ideology overnight.
a liberal.
But I think he's gonna explain that he got gradually into it, so I guess that's my point is invalid.
Before that, just because everyone else around me was a liberal.
Wait.
Okay.
So I became a conservative in 2018, and I became that based off my research. I was actually a liberal before that. Just
I wonder what research he did. It's probably... I'm not gonna say it. No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna get banned so
everyone
quick.
else around me was a liberal. I would vote for Trump in the upcoming election over Biden, over anyone else that runs against him. He embraces free market economics just like I do. We need less government spending. We need to cut taxes. We need to cut government spending. And Donald Trump would definitely
I wonder if one day, if this guy ends up under a bridge, I wonder if he still agrees with what he just said.
do that.
Are your parents conservative?
They are actually, but politics never came up in my family before Trump became president. So they did not influence me.
True. I guess it's really something American to just have politics be so heavily involved with the day-to-day life, because here in the Netherlands politics is just something you think about, maybe talk about a couple of times right before election season, once every 4 years, but otherwise it's not really a topic people talk about.
Be conservative.
But there were 2 years in between, Trump being inaugurated in 2017, and it was like late or mid 2018,
Yeah.
about a year and a half of Trump being in office, running headlines, a lot of big things happening. Are you sure none of that? And their commentary at the dinner table maybe didn't.
No, I remember 2016 election. They didn't say a thing about who they wanted.
That's hard. That's hard.
I know. I'm telling you, it just didn't come up. And obviously, this country's way more political now than it was 10 years ago. But I'm telling you, I just became a conservative based off my own research.
Our whole entire family is very much on the left, like Democratic, liberal, but my mom, she was not, and she would claim that she was a Republican, but I don't think she knows a damn thing about what that means. But like,
Oh shit.
she, but there was a lot of tension, when I
I wonder if his mom is gonna see this video. She probably has.
we would talk about certain political things that I would bring up, and then my brother, he's very right-leaning. One day I came home and they were going through like a journal of mine that was like just of like my liberal views and like Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. And then I realized in that moment I was like, we aren't on the same page, and I don't think we ever are going to be.
Ads again. I should really look into ad blockers. Yep. We're back. Okay, next statement. Okay, if anyone agrees with this, they just inherently don't know anything about politics, and I already see one guy stepping forward, and I'm just interested in hearing what he has to say. I already know what he's gonna say.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, so actually two people. Even one of the moderates doesn't agree that that being a moderate is a solution, which is interesting.
This country functions best.
Okay, he's gonna say it's the best solution to take the best qualities of both the left and the right, and he's just wrong, because if you take qualities from the right, you can't take qualities from the right and still say you believe in leftist qualities, and you also can't take qualities from the left and say you still believe in the ideology of right-wing politics, because they don't go together. They are so counteractive.
When people from all different walks of life, all different political ideologies are able to come together for a greater cause.
I guess he's talking about what do you call it, like the House in the United States, where I actually agree, if you have a one-party system, that's really bad. You should always have like a moderate system, so all people are being heard, because that's just what democracy is, and that's really important. But you can't be a moderate yourself. But I do agree that in the broader spectrum of politics, you should view the moderate ideology. You can't just have a right-leaning country or a left-leaning country, because there are like half of the people are gonna disagree with the government, and that's always gonna go wrong. That's why the United States of America, with our dual-party system, you either agree with the president or you don't. So that's why politics is such a shit show in the US.
I believe that the two-party system is a trap. I believe that political parties as a concept are antithetical to democracy.
I don't speak English well enough to know what he just said.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I also just want to add that I think both parties are a lot more radical than they used to be, and I think moderates...
Yeah, okay, so they're really just talking about the American politics system, which makes sense, but in my country I would agree that having a moderate, as we call it, the second chamber, which I guess is the House in the United States, I do agree that you should view the moderates ideology.
Helping bridge that gap in between and kind of showing that, you know, you can agree with both parties, which can help, especially in, you know, Senate and House of Representatives, to come up with better policies and to come up with better laws that help our people, instead of, you know, the bickering that we see among our politicians right now.
Yeah, so they really just viewed it as the broader political system, because you can't be a moderate yourself, and if anyone says they are a moderate, they are stupid.
I just think the problem in America is that we don't have enough political parties. We only have two. That's the problem. It makes us so divided that we have to pick between the left or the right.
Yeah,
Yep,
also I
true.
think this notion that it's always like what's in the middle that's right. I think really we should be looking at whether it's right or not necessarily based upon the fact of whether it's right or whether it's left or whether it's in the middle. It should be based upon the arguments. It should be based upon the rationalization.
I love your take on that, but nothing can really ever be right, because what's right to one person is not going to be right to the next.
I mean, you can look ideologically at both, and I can say, well, this is this, and this is this.
I mean, you can't. If you wanna make an argument for being a moderate, there is just a right answer to a question on morality. It's just, as a society, there are certain things you should decide on which are right or wrong. You can't always take the moderate solution.
But who's to say which?
Politically you can, of course, but ideologically speaking, you can't be moderate.
Correct, which is why the problem of parties, I think, can't really be solved by breaking the binary. It's something that is ingrained into us as humans to be team members.
I'm just gonna skip this part because they're gonna talk about the American politics system and political system, and I'm not really interested in that. Yep, I agree. Neither Trump nor Biden are good presidents. Because Trump is just an asshole, and Biden doesn't actually enforce any left-wing legislation, so to say. There aren't really any leftist politicians in the US, which is a problem. Fucking ads again. I'm just really trying to not show you these ads. I'm not giving them free clout. I don't have clout, by the way, but you know, that one viewer, they don't get that one viewer for free. Let's play again.
My family benefited from a lot of President Trump's policies, but basically what I felt was that a president needs to be presidential, and for President Biden, I just think that personally he's too old to be president. I do think there needs to be a cutoff limit when someone can be president.
True.
Yeah, young people are heavily unrepresented within our country. The average age of an American.
Yeah, that's true. In politics, young people, or the future basically, is really unrepresented. Yeah, basically everywhere. I don't think there's any political system in which youth is encouraged to be involved in politics.
He's around 37 years old, whereas people in Congress are generally above the age of 50 on average. So when people kind of point at Biden to be very old, Trump's also extremely old too. So if we want to put some type of age limit on that side, I think they're both way too old to be president, and obviously we need a lot more representation for younger people.
Neither of them seem to have been particularly popular, even within their own parties. Trump to a lesser extent.
Well, Trump was extremely popular amongst his party, whereas Biden has actually lost a lot of that popularity throughout time, as people have seen him throughout his presidency. I think there were a lot of things on both the Republican and Democratic side in which these particular figures led to like a larger amount of polarization amongst the public.
I just read the next
I don't like
the next
Trump
statement.
because of a lot of the racist things.
That's gonna be spicy.
And if you're out making jokes about, oh, I'm going to build a wall, and even if it was serious, that's not something to joke about, and it seems like it's very targeted towards one specific group.
Joe Biden has a much stricter racist history than Donald Trump ever has in America.
I mean, of course, Joe Biden was very racist, but I don't think you can say he was more racist than Donald Trump.
And ever will have. During the 2019 presidential cycle, Joe Biden said, if you even think about voting for anybody other than me, you ain't black. And when I learned about the atrocities that the Democrat Party had done, not just to the world and to...
I mean, the Conservative Party, the Republicans, are actively trying to kill black people, but don't know where he was going with that one.
America, but to my race specifically, it told me something that I could never, in my opinion, be a Democrat, and it would take a lot to even vote for him. And on top of that, back in the 80s, he was responsible for, as he said, he wrote the dang bill, the Clinton crime bill, which was responsible for throwing a lot of people that look like us in prison. This guy is weird.
I mean, within your statement, you didn't necessarily
This guy is weird.
acknowledging the racist history in relation to Trump as well. So if we're only going to put...
I mean, at least Joe Biden changed. He became less racist, which is still not a good thing that he ever was racist, but at least he tried to change as a person, and Donald Trump still is very racist.
As on like either Trump or Biden, I see that not necessarily to be like the most consistent framework for looking at this.
Of course, and I understand why you say that, but she didn't actually provide any examples of a history. She provided a media mismanagement of what he said in 2015. So
Nope, you don't need media mismanagement or anything. He's just a racist piece of shit.
15, talking about immigration, but every time Trump tries to talk about this, they call him a racist and a xenophobe.
I come
I wonder why.
from a family that is
What? She's a conservative? Okay.
of immigrants. My
Wait, but then there are 4 conservatives, if I counted them right. Maybe I miscounted.
grandparents don't speak English, and they are from Mexico. And a lot lot of the time people were bashing Trump for that being a racist thing. He's trying to keep them out, but he's only trying to keep the criminal individuals, such as drug lords or people sending drugs to our country.
At the same time,
But that is happening at such an insignificant scale that saying that all Mexicans should not be able to migrate to the US is just weird. You're not gonna solve any major problem by building that wall.
it's sort of like disingenuous to say that the immigration policies are just keeping the bad people out, because at the same time it's almost impossible for most people to emigrate to the United States legally.
How many ads does Jubilee put in their videos? Wow, new Pokemon game. I'm not gonna play it, because I don't have a Switch. If anyone... Oh my god, of course the conservatives agree with this. If you truly think that billionaires are would be good politicians, then... Oh, okay. Okay. No! The moderates too. The majority of the people in the room agree that billionaires could solve problems better than the government. That's crazy.
Capitalism will always be more superior than the public sector in almost like 90% of things in this country.
Not true. Do you remember who won the space race? The nationalized USSR space... what do you call it? The space company. I don't know what the English terminology is for it. But the USSR won the space race with nationalized institutions. So there your argument already goes out of the window.
Billionaires obviously they have a lot of money, but what I see is that billionaires are using their money for philanthropy. They don't want to pay taxes, I see that, because they just feel like if the government takes their money, they're not going to do good with the money.
No, they just want to keep their money because they feel like they have earned it. They don't care where it's going, they just want money.
Great example would be Amazon. I mean,
because they are capitalists.
Has revolutionized the way we shop.
I think the key word in the prompt is billionaires can, affect positive change.
Oh, by the way, about the Amazon comment, of course, Amazon is a really great product, but that doesn't justify getting so filthy rich from it. There are so many problems with workers at Amazon that if Jeff Bezos just gave his workers a little bit of money, all the problems would be gone. If he just gave a tiny ounce of his income, he would solve so many problems for so many people, but he just doesn't want to because he wants to get more money, because he's a billionaire.
A great example would be Amazon. I mean, it has revolutionized the way we shop.
I think the key word in the prompt is billionaires can, affect positive change better than the government. I don't think it's a guarantee that they will, because I think there are certain...
No, of course not, because if there's not a way to make money from something, people with power, people with wealth will not invest in it, because everything billionaires or just like capitalists in general care about is making money, and it doesn't matter what their product is or how they treat anyone, they just want money. So if you have something like healthcare that is reliant upon giving good care and not making money, then you don't want capitalists to control the entire sector as is being done in the United States of America, because then you get such a disorganized healthcare system as they have over there, where people just want to make profit on medicine, then medicine become insanely expensive. There are just things in the world that should not be done with the intent of making money and just with the intent of caring for people and delivering a service. And in fact, most of the things in this world could be, I think. There like only a handful of things, which I would argue that making a profit is more important, like stock trading, shit like that. But most of the things that actually happen in real life that affect people, they could be so much cheaper, so much more accessible if it wasn't for capitalism.
Instances of billionaires doing good with their money, but then there are also, you know, I know you
Billionaires
mentioned Jeff
don't do
Bezos,
good
but
with their money.
he also often doesn't use his money for good, because there are many reports of Amazon employees being mistreated, denied breaks, and, you know, issues where it's like, come on, you have all that money, do you need
Exactly.
like so much more from like cutting corners like that?
These billionaires can do fantastic things, but I also understand that government regulations, taxes, and various other things occupy their time. I don't believe billionaires should be heavily taxed. I believe
This guy probably works at McDonald's or something and would probably benefit from billionaires being taxed more. Okay.
tax cuts we had in 2018 were some of the best things we saw for our economy.
I completely would agree with you that we shouldn't be taxing billionaires at such a high rate. If we tax billionaires, they would respond by increasing the prices of goods and services. I think the reason why everything is
Yes, because they hold so much power over society, because they have become so rich through this system that it's almost irreversible now. If you now try to take power away from the people who are on top of society, of course they are gonna make bad influences upon society. This is something that should have been realized way, way, way back.
so expensive is inflation. But in the past, when inflation was low, there were times where things were very expensive, and that is because of the fact that we have high corporate tax rates in some states.
And also, I respectfully disagree with the idea that taxing billionaires, or specifically leaving billionaires untaxed, is beneficial to the American economy, because
In fact, you would actually benefit from taxing billionaires, because then you have so much more money to spend on public services and on social security and things like that, so it only has positive effects.
most like prosperous era for the American economy.
By the way, capitalists, or billionaires I should say, they steal their wealth. They are not performing hard work to earn all those billions of euros. It's they steal it from their workers who actually do the work.
It was the 1950s, the post-war economic miracle. That was when billionaires were being taxed at a rate of 90%. And this isn't socialism or anything. This was
90%. Wait, did he say 90?
the American economy was the 1950s, the post-war economic miracle. That was when billionaires were being taxed at a rate of 90%. And this isn't
90? Okay, that's how it should be, but I didn't know that.
socialism or anything. This was under American capitalism, under a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower.
And this was right after a fantastic, I hate to say fantastic war, but it was a
He did not just say World War II was fantastic for America. How can you be so delusional? How can your mind be so infiltrated by capitalism that you say shit like this?
fantastic war for us in which we got so much American pride, and that Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower
Oh my
then
God.
utilized that money that he taxed from those billionaires to create a great system, which is the interstate system, which is a fantastic thing that connects our country. But unfortunately,
The interstate system is not a fantastic thing. It ruined American cities.
the government isn't really
That's a whole different topic.
investing money in things like that anymore. It's investing money in weird programs and things that the average American isn't going to benefit from.
So billionaires do have a lot of money and a lot of influence in order to do good within our economy, but nowhere near the ability of the government. We're talking about billions of dollars. The government has access to trillions of dollars on a federal scale, like yearly speaking. Yeah, in some circumstances, like Mark Cuban.
Yeah, I guess in America they do. In the Netherlands they don't. But we also don't really have that many billionaires that have power on society. It's pretty well organized here.
And they absolutely can do those things. It doesn't anywhere near compare to the level of access to healthcare that they do have in these other countries.
And it doesn't compare to the damage that will happen to the average American when the government decides to pull trillions of dollars out of nowhere, because we have to remind ourselves the government makes nothing, the government takes from every single citizen standing.
Yes, that's the point. You pay the government to pave the roads next to your house because you're not gonna do that yourself. That is something that someone has to do, and that's why there is a government that you pay a subsidiary to perform those public services.
Standing in this room that pays taxes each and every day, including state governments and federal governments, they start throwing trillions at random things like, I don't know, healthcare for everybody, which can work for a country that's the size.
Oh, I wanna punch this guy in the face. Okay. Wait.
Government takes from every single citizen standing in this room that pays taxes each and every day, including state governments and federal governments. They start throwing trillions at random things like, I don't know,
Random things.
healthcare for everybody.
Like healthcare for everybody. That's not a random thing. That's a need. That's a, how do you say it? That's vital to survival.
Can work for a country that's the size of maybe South Carolina, but will not work for the size of our country.
Yeah, I would say that's because
Why? Why wouldn't it work? Give me one reason why it wouldn't work in the United States. Just because it's a larger country. I'm pretty sure China has public health care. And they have a lot more inhabitants.
our government actually like mismanages money comparative to other nations. We
Oh,
spend a lot
that's true.
in terms of our per capita on healthcare, like more than other countries, yet they actually have better health outcomes and they cover more people.
Yes, because it's privatized and it's focused on making money. It's focused on making a profit off of people's needs.
So I do think there are lots of things that the United States could do better comparative to other countries. We can learn a lot more from those other countries, and yet we don't do that because of this idea of American exceptionalism.
When you were talking about like how it's much easier to like manage like a country that's smaller, that's completely true. Like whatever the national government does doesn't really affect me. And that's why like for me, I'm a very strong participant in my own local government because you can like actively go there and talk about like what you want things to be.
True, the only way you can make a difference in your local area is to be involved in local politics. That's the easiest way to get shit done. Just go to town hall meetings and stuff like that, and you can actually be involved in what's happening. Because anything about like national policies, that's you won't have any influence.
The budget, and it allows you to actually see tangible effects.
I have to be fair, I don't know anything about the Supreme Court system and things like that, because I don't think we have that in the Netherlands. I mean, we do have like this body, it's called the Eerste Kamer, the first chamber, that actually like controls government policies and has like the final say, but I don't think we have something like the Supreme Court. I'm just gonna skip this for now because it's getting late here and I don't really have anything to say about this. I mean, I am in my country, but I'm not from the United States, so I'm interested in what is happening, what they are discussing about here.
Here in the United States, we have the ability and the opportunity to be the best nation in the world and live up to all the ideals that we grew up with and thought that we had. Look at all of us.
Okay, this is just gonna be American delusionalism, but yeah, I guess for me in the Netherlands, I'm pretty hopeful for my future because everything is pretty well organized. If we manage to combat climate change and the what you call it, graying of the population, like the aging population we have here, if we are able to combat those things, I'm pretty hopeful.
We're willing to have a conversation, whereas years ago,
But I'm pretty negative about the climate change problem because it's a global problem and the world just doesn't agree on anything.
we might not have sat down, we might have hated each other for having different types of beliefs. So I really think that shows the type of growth potential that the United States has in particular.
I personally think I have a great future in this country. especially being a woman, because I can sit here.
Wait, this video is from 2022. Did she miss the whole abortion scandal from the Supreme Court?
And wear what I want, say what I want, and have just as many rights and equal facilities as
You literally just got taken away a right as a woman. But okay.
you do, as in other countries. That's not awarded to all women or even all people, and I feel that our country gives us some of the most privilege in the world.
So for me right now,
No, they really don't. That's just delusionalism. That's just delusional to say.
now I live a great life. I have a house, I have a cat, I have 2 dogs, and it's great. But I feel like things could always be better, you know? And I think that's what I like about this country, is that we have a government where we can actively participate in, and we can make the changes that we want to see.
As an outsider, seeing people say shit like this is really weird, because the United States of America is very nationalistic, which is really weird for me as a European, because nationalism is not that common around here because of the history of Europe, if you know what I mean, like colonialism, shit like that. This is a bit weird for me.
I think that I am very scared for my future. I grew up 2 hours away from Ku Klux Klan headquarters, if that tells you anything about where I grew up. There's probably...
How old is this guy? Does the Ku Klux Klan still exist?
less than the amount of fingers I have on my hands of people of color in my school. There was a lot of racial heat that I got growing up, and it forced me to grow up a lot faster than I thought that I'd have to. If you look up Harrison, Arkansas, it's known as one of the most racist cities in America, and you can see, if you're on TikTok and you see, we visited the most racist city in America, that's going to be Harrison, Arkansas. My mother is white, but whenever my mom would drive through Harrison when we were going somewhere, she would put a blanket over my crib while we were in that city just because she felt unsafe for me.
What the? Holy shit. Is this really shit that is happening in the world? That's crazy.
And whenever I hosted the Black Lives Matter protest, a lot of members from that Ku Klux Klan organization in Harrison were making groups saying that they
The fact that he's still alive is amazing.
come up and harass us and harm us. And it's a very scary thing because you read about the Ku Klux Klan in history books. It's a very different thing to hear them personally tweeting out to you that they're going to come and that they're going to harm you. As much as our country is growing, I'm also not going to invalidate the fact that there is a lot of issues that are still stemmed very deep in a lot of people's brains that are still being acted out upon and causing me to
Racism.
feel uncomfortable to live in my country.
As a black woman, I just feel like being anywhere in the world, it's not just America. There will always be somebody who does not like a person of color, and there will always be someone who wants to assault a woman. We are making...
I mean, I disagree. I think we can build a society in which that is not the case. If if we just keep on teaching the next generation that racism and what you call it, misogyny is frowned upon, then I think eventually it will fade away. It's just because we only globalized for a couple of decades now, like from the 1900s on. We just got to globalization, so for the really for like the first time, society is really racially mixed, and I think it's just a matter of time before it fades away. I don't think that is a real big problem in the world.
making progress.
Of course, right now it is, but for the future.
But in the same way, we can always go backwards. In Detroit, I just was not happy. Being around white kids at school, I think they are taught to believe that black people are maybe lower than them. And even if it's not taught, it's something ingrained just in society.
As someone who is not, quite as dark as you, but lives kind of a similar lifestyle, I'm trying to say is that I understand it. I really do. It's still a thing that can be stronger than ever, especially with the benefit of social media. I think it's something that we need to grow past if we're going to make the world better for our children. But I think we're also right here, which is a very diverse group in and of itself. But I think we're going to be one of the least racist generations ever, which kind of goes
Yes,
without
I
saying.
think
And
I think so as well. I think that is a hopeful outlook for the future.
this will be the century that is just completely eradicated, at least systemically.
I
Well,
hope so.
you're right, and it obviously is a privilege to live in the United States, but I think we're
It's not, dude. It's really not. I mean, compared to like countries in Africa and Southeast Asia and the Middle East, I guess, but there are better parts in this, better countries to live in this world.
we're going
But still, I mean, yeah, it's a privilege, I guess. Yeah.
down a very dangerous path. Freedom of speech is under attack in this country. Freedom
It's really not. It's just people don't like it when you say racist shit. Just stop saying racist shit and you're fine.
thought is under attack. Standard of living has decreased dramatically. People just aren't doing better today than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
What do you mean we're doing worse off now? Like, what are you looking at in terms of how did you determine whether or not we're doing worse off?
Well, there's so many things to look at. One of it is how divided we are politically. But at the end of the day, we are
I wonder whose problem that is. I really don't know.
the future. And I hope that we don't follow what they're doing. I hope that when our generation goes into Congress, I hope that we're not so politically divided as they are now.
One thing that gives me a lot
I mean, that's just ingrained into the American political system. You're always gonna be divided. That's just bound to happen with a double, like a bi-party system.
is just like all of us right now here talking. We're all from different backgrounds. We all have different stories in our past, but we're all here and we're all having a conversation, and we're all listening to each other. We're all getting our ideas out, and in the end of the day, I think this is giving me hope for the future because this is what's going to change.
I actually don't know. To be fair, I really don't talk about politics with my friends because, as I already said, it's not really something that is a day-to-day thing in the Netherlands. It's not really something people talk a lot about in society, so I don't really talk about my friends with politics. But I guess, like, most of them would be left-leaning, more or less.
I came from a very conservative and Republican city and state in Arkansas, and I grew up around a lot of people who did not have the same beliefs as me at all. And a lot of the people that I would try to keep in my circle who did have different beliefs were blasting me on private stories and stuff like that and making me feel like I was dumb.
It's really hard for me to make friends that are from the liberal side, as immediately they hear or even see my political views or even my religion, they immediately try to shut me down. They send me death threats. They put
That's a problem. If you really dislike someone because of their political views, then there's something wrong with you, because you can still have a beer with someone. I could still have a beer with someone who has right-wing ideology, right-wing beliefs. Just don't make politics your personality, because of course then people are going to hate you. Just for most parts of life, like your day-to-day life, I get it's fine to forget about politics. That's really something that only matters during elections, and I guess if you are discussing morality, but when are you discussing morality? That's something that's weird to me. If you dislike someone because of their beliefs, I guess yes, of course it's a bit part of someone's personality, but mostly it isn't, I guess. Personality is more than politics, is what I'm trying to say.
put stuff in my bag saying they're going to kill me. They poured paint in my bag and shaken it up. When COVID happened and things were starting to shut down, and
I mean, if you're a conservative teenager, I guess you kind of deserve it, but then you're just advocating against yourself.
The incident with George Floyd happened, everybody started looking through everyone's profiles, their family's profiles, especially when these protests were going on. And there was a picture of my dad and my family, all of us together, and he was wearing a Trump shirt. I was getting a lot of death threats, a lot of encouraging me to commit suicide, threatening to do unspeakable things to me and my family, threatening to find my address and hurt them. I could, in fact, say almost all of them were liberals. It makes it really, really hard because the minute that you're different from them, at least in my experience, they shut you down immediately. So I just kind of close myself off and I stay
As you should. As you should.
friends with the people that are going to respect me and respect my views.
When I came out publicly as a conservative in 2018, it was probably one of the hardest years I've ever went through. At my school, having my opinions while looking like I did was a non-starter. I received so many obviously negative messages. They called me some terrible things, which I...
Yes, of course you did, because being a conservative means you are against minorities. So it's not that weird
don't even think I can say on
that people disliked you.
here, but all the phrases that you've heard, get thrown at black conservatives simply for having their ideas and make it look like I'm some sort of slave simply for having my opinions, making it seem like
I mean, like, I guess you could be like economically conservative, that I could understand. I could see why people would believe that, but being socially conservative is stupid. That's just not how society works.
I can't think for myself.
Especially when you're younger. I really don't understand.
Because I am black, not understanding that they're perpetuating the exact same racism that they think they're fighting against by calling me those words.
I'm from Thousand Oaks, California, and I've met people who are like pretty hardcore conservatives. I feel like all of us, when my friends, when we come and have these discussions, we all just want what's best for this country. And of course, we all have our own ideas of how to achieve that, but in the end, we want a world that everyone can benefit from. And of course, unless you are able to discuss with other people your different opinions with things and talk about the reasons why you believe certain ways, you can't make any progress with our country.
I strongly agree, and so personally, I'm from New Jersey. You can probably figure out I have a predominantly left-leaning friend group.
How would I be able to figure that out? I mean, I guess maybe New Jersey is like known for being leftist, but
I never really took issue with that because it's. I feel like at the end of the day, you shouldn't be exclusively talking about politics with the people you're friends with. Especially, it's concerning to me that, based on recent studies, a growing plurality of Americans simply refuse to be friends with people who are of different political affiliations from them. That, if anything, says very concerning things about our country, especially
yes,
because,
it does.
that this
As an outsider, yes, it does.